Hey everybody, this is Rock Paper Mario and welcome back to Let's Play Luigi's Mansion. When we last left off, what? That didn't even make sense. When we last left off, I don't even think that makes sense anyway. When we last left off, we were just about to fight the second boss. So without further ado, let's get at it. And this is actually one of my favorite ghosts in the game, and this is one of my favorite sequences in the game. God, he doesn't look friendly, does he? This is the second boss, and his name is Bogmire. What's his name? I think his tagline is the Cemetery Shadow. But he's a really cool boss. He's actually one of my favorite ghosts in the game. And I always, well, what I'll do is I'll explain how to fight him first, and then I might ramble on a bit while I'm fighting him. You might see that ghost there. You only see these ghosts in this battle, and they serve a very special purpose. They're like shadows of Bogmire, is what I call them, and what you're supposed to do is suck them up so that they stick to your Hoover, and then shoot Bogmire. Oh well, that was rubbish. I didn't even. Seriously, I haven't played this boss fight since my last practice file, which was quite some time ago. But you think I'd remember what I'm supposed to do? Would you ever get sucked up onto the Hoover? So yeah, what you're supposed to do is not that. You're supposed to hit him with the gunk ball that gets stuck to the end of your Hoover. And if you see, like, he'll like disappear around the place, and you're supposed to like sneak up behind him. But as you can see, he's quite strong. Now, as far as I know, if you hit him with a big gunk ball off one of the bigger shadows, then it's more effective than the smaller gunk balls off the smaller shadows. Well, it would make sense, one would hope. So yeah, he's not that bad at the moment. He'll stay in the same place. Well, I am doing terrible at this boss fight. This is just terrible. You must all think I'm like the suckiest player that ever sucked in the history of suckdom. But yeah, this boss fight can take quite a while. As you can see, after hitting him with the bigger shadow, then he stays down for a bit longer and he's not as strong. So yeah, I think I'll just be quiet now and let myself suck. Well, I'm not going to be quiet, but I've already explained what you're supposed to do. And from then on, it's just a case of lather, rinse and repeat, really. He does get a bit harder, he starts moving around a bit more. But speaking of Super Castlevania 4, this boss always reminded me of like someone who could be in a Castlevania game. Because he's like, oh, a globby, goopy fella. And I don't know, he always reminded me of like... Oh, speaking of Castlevania, I saw one of the funniest comments I've ever seen the other day. I was listening to like... It was like a metal version of, you know, Simon Belmont's theme from Super Castlevania 4. And what is he doing? I've never seen him do that before. And it was like a metal version, and there was this comment under it, and it was one of the funniest comments I've ever seen. It was like, someone said, oh, I can just imagine, like, at the start of Super Castlevania 4, Simon Belmont just, like, pushing down his whip and whipping out a guitar and playing this instead for the whole game. And I just got the funniest image of, well, I'll just finish telling the story. I just got the funniest image of, like, Simon Belmont whipping out, like, I don't know, like a Gibson Flying V or something, and like strutting down the first level of Super Castlevania 4, playing his team and like shredding away. So like something out of like a Bon Jovi video with like that big strut, because like the way he walks, the way you can't run in Castlevania, he just kind of trundles along and struts along, and that's what it reminded me of. It reminded me of like the way they walk in Bon Jovi videos, like in, well, any Bon Jovi video. And I just got the funniest image of him like going do 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 do, and like shredding along and walking along, and like all these Medusa heads just like crumbling because of the sheer amazingness of his guitar playing. Oh, so we get another message like this that goes Luigi from the Ewok. Hi, Chihuahua. Luigi, can you hear me? Evidently. Good to hear you're still okay. I lost your signal with that lightning struck. Well, you just saw me beat the boss and I didn't make any big deal out of it at all. That was some battle you had there. Why don't you come back to the lab? Well, now he sounds like, I don't know what he sounds... Oh, that voice just doesn't make any sense. It sounds like, Seth Hazlitt out of Murder, She Wrote, the doctor. That lightning would have cooked your goose, but the poltergeist wouldn't even have a scratch. Oh, that's good. It's like that thing from the Truman Show, the peeler, dicer, slicer, all in one. And it's indestructible. Good job, Luigi. You made it back in one piece. One piece. Looks like you got a vacuum full of ghosts there. Well, we do actually have quite a few ghosts. What do you say we put him through the old ghost portrificationizer? There, I said it. So yeah, stick your thing into that hole there and enjoy the ride. Sorry. I never get tired of watching this sequence. Oh well, I did that last time and I said I wouldn't do that anymore, but I did. I went like Porky Pig or something at the end of a cartoon. So yeah, the ghosts are invisible, so we need to press them into invisible forms, Jessica. And presto, turn them into beautiful ghost portraits. They are quite beautiful. I love the portraits in this game. So yeah, let's just sit back and enjoy the ride, like he said, and watch them. Well, watch the wheels go round and round like John Lennon. It feels really great to be recording again. I haven't done it in so long. I thought I'd be rusty, but I'm actually really enjoying it. Well, we managed to turn those ghosts back into paintings. Thanks for your help, Luigi. And he does like his spinny victory dance. You caught Mr. Logs, the floating Whirlindas, Melody Pianissima, Shivers, Spooky Dookie Doo. Where are you? Bogmire. Well, Spooky Dookie Doo is in a painting now, so we don't need to ask where he is. Where's Casey Kasem, otherwise known as the voice of Shaggy? I hated Shaggy's voice in Scooby-Doo. No one talks like that. And you could imagine a dog talking like Scooby. That were a dog to talk, he may possibly sound like Scooby-Doo and be all like, "Oh, Luigi got me and wrote me in a road rage." Well, no, that's what that was stupid. But like, I don't know, no one talks like Shaggy, I don't think. Oh, look at all that money. I don't even know what that's from. I think that might be from an episode of Kenan and Kel or something. Save? Yeah, sure. Hell yeah, I'll save. Where will you go? Well, we're only at like 6-7 minutes, so I'm going to go to the gallery. And I'm going to show you the portraits we got there in Area 2. Which the first one was something like... Well, no, I'll show you. And then I'll show you the ghost, or the bio for Bogmire. Well, here's the first one. Here's Melody. That's a lovely picture. What a pretty picture. What a pretty fire! Well, anyone who's watched Howl's Moving Castle knows that line. I love that line. Here's the floating Whirlindas. And look at her face. Her face is so ugly. Sorry. And here's my favourite. Oh, Spooky. I think that's a really cool portrait. I love the style of that. And like I said, the portraits will be different depending on whether you get a bronze frame, a gold frame, or a silver frame. I think is it the silver or bronze one of Spooky is like a really weird pixelated one. But yeah, the bronze frame usually won't be that great. It won't be a very good quality picture. Here's Shivers in his silver frame looking quite perturbed. Yeah, butlers don't seem to be the happiest of people. They normally really resent their job for some reason. There's Mr. Logs just looking like an enormous tomato. Tomato, you say tomato, I say tomato. Well, usually I do say tomato. I only said tomato there. I never say that. I wonder why I said that. Well, there's Bogmire, and I must say the silver portrait of him is really cool. And I think Bogmire is one of those ghosts that I actually, for some reason, prefer the silver portrait to the gold portrait, because I think the gold portrait is actually of one of the shadow Bogmires that you suck up into the gloopy ball to get him. So yeah, there's all the money we have. As you can see, we have a hell of a lot of money. Good few gems. We have 2 medallions, and we have Mario's hat in that bar. I wonder what else could go there under Mario's hat. Well, usually Mario's head, but let's check Bogmire first. The Cemetery Shadow, Bogmire, !, years old. Question mark. I always think that question marks when they're put together, that should be said like, the sound that Tim Allen makes in Home Improvement. Like, so like Bogmire would be like, years old. That was a terrible impression. A product of the mansion's fear and despair. He's not sure who to fear and what to despair of these days. Well, that sounded like that voice sounded like this music lecturer I have, who's one of my favourite lecturers. He's really good, but that's what his voice sounds like. I suppose I could have done it like Orson Welles and be like, the product of the mansion's what was the line? That was a terrible Orson Welles impression anyway. A product of the mansion's fear and despair. He's not sure who to fear and what to despair of these days. That was a terrible Orson Welles impression. I think Orson Welles is a really hard voice to do, but I love his voice. I stayed up last night because, well, yeah, go back to the lab. We're just going to do a few things before we start on the next area. So we'll go to the mansion. and we'll skip this little animation. Yeah, I was so pissed off because I stayed up nearly every night last week. Well, last week, the end of last week and last weekend, to try and catch the meteor shower, and every single night it was cloudy. So instead, last night I just like placated myself by listening to the 1938 a recording of the 1938 War of the Worlds broadcast by Orson Welles. I said that would be nice and appropriate. So yeah, the reason I'm coming back in here is, well, no, I'm not going to do that Ghostbusters quote. You think, well, no, I'm just after mentioning Ghostbusters again. I seem to mention Ghostbusters almost every single episode. There's something that I can talk about Ghostbusters about. As you can see, during that brief time of our battling that boss, that flower has become like a little bud thing. So what you want to do after you fight this boss, before you fight the third boss, any time between the defeating the second boss and fighting the third boss, you want to water it again. Make sure you do it if you want to get the secret. And then it'll turn into this thing. It'll turn into a flower. Now, if you then what you want to do is water it one more time after you fight the third boss. And you'll get your prize, whatever might it be. Whatever is a prize in this game, the prize is always the same thing. But I'm going to leave it be a surprise. So, we're up to 11 minutes, I think, now. So what we're going to do is we're just going to finish off this video by going and catching a glimpse of the next area, like we did before we started Area 2. And there's some really cool things in Area 3. I really like Area 3 in this game. I think it's really cool. So we get to hear this noise again. Well, that was an even more annoying noise. And not only was it an annoying noise, but it didn't even bear any resemblance to the noise that was being made in the game. So here we have this little animation of him opening the door again, which is pretty cool. And the trembling hand for David Tremble. Well, no, that was David Trimble, and that didn't even make sense. Sorry, I'm saying a lot of things that don't make sense. Oh, who's this character here? Well, we seem to be outside for the second time in the game. Well, no. And there's a fountain. Ooh, what could this be? And there's, oh, a well. What? Oh, and there's a ghost in a tree. I call it Tree Monster. There's a birdhouse. A very important birdhouse. You will not believe how important that birdhouse is. There's a statue of... Well, let's get these buggers out of the way. What's that statue of? Oh, well, it's like that woman in Wind Waker. That woman in Wind Waker that carries the jars on her head. And here's an important hut. And everything out here is important. Well, that tree isn't important, but the hut is important. The birdhouse is very important. The well, very important. And surprisingly enough, well, that fountain isn't important. This statue is actually important. Anyone who's played this game might recognize who this statue is, or who it looks like. I don't know if it's actually supposed to be him, but it looks really like someone else, so I'll explain that some other time. And I'd never know what this towel is. There's just this towel hanging up here, and I never know what it is. So yeah, without further ado, what? That's a weird angle. Well, no, I'm not going to say that. I could have said something there. You all know what I could have said, I suppose. Well, where's the door? Well, let's leave it at this weird angle. Let's get a lovely shot of the fountain while we end off this video. So, in the next part, what we're going to do is we're going to take on Area 3. Hopefully catch some more portrait ghosts and maybe uncover a bit more of the plot. Well, there the angle is after returning to normal. So thank you for watching. Let's play this part of Let's Play Luigi's Mansion with me, Rock Paper Mario, and see you next time.